Sarah Kim thought the worst thing that could happen was watching her 8-year-old brother die from a heart condition she couldn't afford to fix. She was wrong. The worst thing was witnessing a kidnapping plot that would make her the target of a dangerous man who controlled half the city through fear and violence. But when the black sedan pulled up and masked men dragged her into the darkness, Sarah discovered something that shattered everything she thought she knew about her past. The cold, calculating Mafia boss who ordered her capture wasn't a stranger at all. He was the boy she'd loved and lost 10 years ago. The boy she'd mourned as dead. The boy who'd promised to protect her from everything before their world exploded in flames and blood. Now he's offering her protection while her brother's life hangs in the balance, and Sarah must choose between the love that destroyed her once and the family that's everything she has left. But in a game where everyone has secrets and no one can be trusted, some reunions are deadlier than bullets. Subscribe and comment if you've ever had to choose between your heart and your family, because this story is about to prove that some loves are worth dying for. Sarah Kim's hands shook as she counted the crumpled bills for the third time. $47.16. The coffee shop register drawer slammed shut with more force than necessary. "You okay, Sarah?" Jen asked from behind the espresso machine. "Fine." Sarah wiped down the counter again. The motion gave her something to focus on besides the crushing weight in her chest. Her phone buzzed. A text from the hospital billing department. "Payment overdue. Please contact our office immediately." Sarah felt sick. She deleted the message and grabbed her delivery bag from the back room. The Korean district paid better tips for late-night food runs. She needed every dollar she could scrape together. "Tell Marcus I'll see him tomorrow," she called to Jen. The November air bit through her jacket as she wheeled her delivery bike onto the sidewalk. The hospital loomed 6 blocks away. Tommy would be asking for her soon. He always asked for her when the pain got bad. Sarah's phone rang. Dr. Chen's number appeared on the screen. "Miss Kim." Dr. Chen's voice was careful, professional. "Could you come in tonight? We need to discuss Tommy's treatment timeline." Sarah's stomach dropped. "Is he okay? What happened?" "He's stable, but we need to talk about the surgery. Soon." The line went dead. Sarah stood frozen on the sidewalk as people moved around her. The surgery. The $75,000 surgery that insurance wouldn't cover. The surgery that would save Tommy's life. Or the surgery that would never happen because she was broke. Sarah's chest tightened. She climbed onto her bike and pedaled toward the hospital. The delivery orders could wait 20 minutes. Tommy couldn't. The pediatric ward smelled like antiseptic and false hope. Sarah found Tommy in his usual room, small and pale against the white sheets. His dark eyes lit up when she walked in. "Sarah." He tried to sit up. The heart monitor beeped faster. "Easy, kiddo." She kissed his forehead. "Dr. Chen called. What's going on?" Tommy's smile faded. The doctor was here. He looked sad. Dr. Chen appeared in the doorway. "Miss Kim, thank you for coming." They stepped into the hallway. Sarah's hands clenched into fists. "How long do we have?" she asked. 8 weeks, maybe 10. Dr. Chen's voice was gentle. "After that, the damage becomes irreversible. The surgery has to happen before then." Sarah felt the world tilt. 8 weeks, 2 months to find $75,000. "What about payment plans? Charity programs?" "We've explored every option, I'm sorry." Dr. Chen touched her shoulder. "Tommy is strong. Don't give up." Sarah nodded because speaking would break her. She returned to Tommy's room and held his hand until he fell asleep. Then she walked to the parking garage and sat in her car. 8 weeks. She pulled out her phone and calculated her earnings, coffee shop wages plus delivery tips. Even working every available hour, she might scrape together $5,000. Pie Christmas. Maybe 8 if she stopped eating. Sarah's breath came short and fast. She pressed her palms against her eyes and forced herself to breathe slowly. Tommy needed her strong. Tommy needed her to find a way. She started her bike and headed for the Korean district. The delivery app showed 3 orders waiting. Sarah put on her helmet and rode into the night. The first 2 deliveries went smoothly. college kids who tipped in cash and didn't ask questions. Sarah pocketed the money and checked her phone. One more order, an upscale Korean restaurant on the edge of Koreatown. The Golden Dragon sat between a traditional medicine shop and a beauty supply store. Sarah parked her bike and grabbed the order bags. Hot pot for 4 people. The receipt showed a $30 tip already included. She pushed through the restaurant's front door. The hostess pointed toward a private dining room in the back. Through there, room 7. Sarah walked down a narrow hallway lined with red doors. Voices drifted from behind the walls. Laughter and conversation in Korean mixed with English. Business dinners running late. She found room 7 and knocked. No answer. Sarah checked the order again. Room 7, Golden Dragon, 9:30 delivery. The door was slightly open. Sarah pushed it wider and stepped inside. The room was empty. Chairs pushed back from a round table. Half-finished drinks and abandoned chopsticks. Sarah set the bags on the table and pulled out her phone to call the customer. Voices echoed from the next room. Loud. Angry. Sarah froze. "You think I'm stupid?" A man spoke in accented English. "You think I don't know what you're planning?" Sarah moved toward the wall that separated the rooms. The voices were clearer now. "Min-sik is getting impatient," another voice said. "The girl needs to disappear soon. Jin-woo won't see it coming. His precious accountant's daughter." Sarah's blood went cold. They were talking about kidnapping someone. A girl. Someone's daughter. She pressed closer to the wall. A thin gap between the panels let her see into the next room. 4 men in expensive suits sat around a table. One held a manila envelope. Another counted money. Friday night. She leaves the university library at 9. Same route every week. Sarah's hands trembled. She should leave. Call the police from the parking lot. But she needed to see faces. License plates. Something useful. The man with the envelope slid a photograph across the table. Sarah couldn't see it clearly, but the men nodded. "Make it clean. No witnesses. Jin-woo gets the proof of life Saturday morning." Sarah shifted to get a better view. Her delivery bag brushed against a chair. The soft scrape echoed in the quiet room. All 4 men looked up. Sarah's eyes met those of the closest man. Dark, cold, calculating. He stood slowly and pointed directly at her. "We have company." Sarah ran. She burst through the dining room door and sprinted down the hallway. Behind her, chairs crashed and men shouted. Sarah slammed through the restaurant's front door and grabbed her bike. "Stop her!" someone yelled in Korean. Sarah's hands shook as she fumbled with her helmet. The bike's engine turned over on the 3rd try. She pulled into traffic without looking back. Her heart hammered against her ribs as she rode through the maze of downtown streets. Every car behind her looked suspicious. Every shadow might hide an enemy. Sarah didn't slow down until she reached her apartment building. She parked in the underground garage and took the elevator to the 8th floor. Only, when she was inside her small studio with the door locked, did she allow herself to breathe. She sat on her futon and tried to think clearly. What had she seen? Men planning to kidnap someone. A girl from the university. Someone named Jin-woo's accountant's daughter. Sarah picked up her phone to call the police. Then she stopped. What could she tell them? She'd overheard a conversation. She had no proof. No names beyond Min-sik and Jin-woo. No clear description of the men. But a girl was going to be kidnapped Friday night. Sarah's phone buzzed. "Text from an unknown number. We saw you watching. Stay quiet or you'll regret it." Sarah's breath caught. They had her license plate. Probably her name and address, too. How long before they came for her? She double-checked her door locks and closed all the blinds. Then she sat in the dark and tried to decide if saving a stranger was worth risking Tommy's life. Sarah barely slept. Every sound in the hallway made her jump. Every car engine in the parking lot sent adrenaline shooting through her veins. By morning, exhaustion weighed her down more than fear. She arrived at the coffee shop early and threw herself into work. Grinding beans and steaming milk felt normal, safe. The familiar routine pushed the previous night's terror into a manageable corner of her mind. "You look terrible," Jen said during the lunch rush. "Did you sleep at all?" "Bad night," Sarah said. She pulled shots of espresso with mechanical precision. Her phone rang around 2 o'clock. Tommy's ringtone. Sarah stepped into the back room to answer. "Sarah?" Tommy's voice was small, scared. "There are men here asking about you." Sarah's blood turned to ice. "What men? Where are you?" "In my room. They talked to Dr. Chen. They said they were family friends." "Tommy, listen to me carefully. Lock your door. Don't let anyone in except Dr. Chen or the nurses. I'm coming now." Sarah grabbed her jacket and ran for the exit. Marcus called after her, but she didn't stop. The hospital was 15 minutes away by car, 10 if she hit every light right. She made it in 8. Tommy's room was empty. Sarah's heart stopped. She ran to the nurse's station. "Where's my brother?" "Tommy Kim, room 314. The nurse looked confused. "He's in radiology. Scheduled CT scan. Should be back in 20 minutes. "Who authorized that? He wasn't supposed to have any scans today. Dr. Chen ordered it this morning. Is there a problem?" Sarah's phone buzzed. Another unknown number. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Come outside. Parking level B2. Come alone." Sarah felt terror and rage collide in her chest. They had Tommy. These strangers had taken her sick 8-year-old brother. She took the elevator to the second basement level. Her footsteps echoed in the concrete space. A black sedan sat in the far corner, engine running. 2 men in dark suits stood beside it. Sarah walked toward them on unsteady legs. "Where is he?" "He's safe," the taller man said. His accent was thick. Korean. "He stays safe if you come with us quietly." "I want to see him. Now." The man held up a phone. Tommy's face appeared on the screen. He was in a different hospital room, connected to monitors Sarah didn't recognize. Tears ran down his cheeks. "He needs his medication," Sarah said, "every 4 hours, and he gets scared in new places." "He'll be fine if you cooperate." The man opened the sedan's back door. "Get in." Sarah looked around the empty garage. No security cameras in this corner. No witnesses. If she screamed, no one would hear. She thought about Tommy's frightened face on the phone, his quiet strength through months of procedures and pain, the surgery that could save his life. Sarah got in the car. The men slid into the front seats. The sedan pulled out of the garage and into afternoon traffic. Sarah watched the city pass through tinted windows and tried not to panic. "Where are we going?" she asked. Neither man answered. The driver took the highway toward the industrial district. Warehouses and shipping containers stretched in every direction. Sarah's phone buzzed constantly. Text messages and missed calls. The coffee shop wondering where she went. The hospital asking about Tommy's insurance forms. A normal life that felt impossibly far away. The sedan turned into a complex of grey buildings surrounded by chain-link fence. No signs. No obvious business. The driver punched a code into a keypad and a gate rolled open. They stopped beside a loading dock. The tall man got out and opened Sarah's door. "Inside," he said. Sarah stepped onto cracked concrete. The smell of motor oil and rust filled her nostrils. Somewhere in the distance, machinery hummed. They led her through a metal door into a corridor lined with offices. Most were empty, but light came from under a few doors. The sound of voices and ringing phones suggested this place was very much in business. The corridor ended at a heavy wooden door. The tall man knocked twice. "Enter," a voice called from inside. Sarah was pushed into a spacious office. Dark wood furniture and expensive art on the walls. A man sat behind a massive desk studying papers. He looked up as they entered. Sarah had seen this face before. In the restaurant dining room, the man with the envelope who had pointed directly at her. "Miss Kim," he said in perfect English, "please sit down." Sarah remained standing. "I want my brother back." "Of course you do." The man gestured to a leather chair. "My name is Min Sik. We have a mutual problem to solve." "I don't know what you're talking about." "You witnessed a private business conversation last night. That puts both of us in a difficult position." Min Sik stood and walked to a window overlooking the warehouse floor. Trucks loaded and unloaded cargo in organized chaos. "I could solve this problem permanently," he said, "but that would be wasteful. You and your brother could simply disappear. These things happen in the city. Sarah's hands clenched into fists. What do you want? Your cooperation, your silence, and most importantly, your participation in a small deception. Min-sik returned to his desk and opened a folder. Photographs spilled across the surface. Sarah recognized herself leaving the coffee shop. Tommy in his hospital bed, her apartment building. You've been carefully researched, Miss Kim. Single woman, no family except the sick brother, struggling financially. Perfect. For our needs. I'm not doing anything for you. Oh, but you are. Min-sik smiled without warmth. Because the alternative is unthinkable. He pressed a button on his desk phone. The wooden door opened, and another man entered. Younger than Min-sik, but with the same cold eyes. This is my nephew, Jung. He's been watching your brother at his new location. Tommy is asking for you. Sarah's chest tightened. If you hurt him. He won't be hurt if you follow instructions exactly. Min-sik pulled a single photograph from the folder. Do you know this man? Sarah looked at the image. A Korean man in an expensive suit walking out of what looked like a restaurant or club. Dark hair, strong jaw, confident posture. He was handsome in a dangerous way that made her uneasy. No, she said. His name is Jin-woo Park. He runs a rival organization, very successful, very protective of his people. Min-sik traced the edge of the photograph with his finger. Jin-woo thinks you belong to him. He thinks you're connected to his accountant's family. Tomorrow night, when his men take you, you'll let them believe that. Sarah stared at him. You want me to get kidnapped? On purpose. You want your brother to live. This is how that happens. The room was silent except for the distant sound of truck engines. Sarah thought about Tommy's trusting face, his faith that she would always find a way to protect him. What happens after they take me? You become our eyes inside Jin-woo's organization. You report back everything you see and hear. After we have what we need, you and Tommy disappear to a new city with enough money to pay for his surgery. Min-sik's voice was matter-of-fact, as if he were discussing shipping schedules instead of her life. How do I know you'll keep your word? You don't, but you know what happens if you refuse. Sarah closed her eyes and tried to think of alternatives, call the police, and hope they could find Tommy before Min-sik's men hurt him. Run and pray they could hide somewhere Min-sik couldn't follow. Fight back and watch her brother pay the price. There were no good choices, only degrees of terrible. When? She asked. Tomorrow, 9 o'clock. You'll be walking home from the university library. Min-sik handed her a manila envelope. Study this. Jin-woo's accountant has a daughter named Lisa Park, 19 years old, business major. You'll pretend to be her for as long as necessary. Sarah took the envelope with numb fingers. What if he figures out I'm not her? Then you'd better be very convincing. Min-sik pressed the desk button again. The tall man from the car appeared in the doorway. Take Miss Kim back to the city. Tommy will call her tonight to prove he's safe. Sarah stood on unsteady legs. Every step toward the door felt irreversible. Once she walked out of this office, there would be no turning back. Miss Kim, Min-sik called. She turned around. Don't disappoint me. Little boys are so fragile. Sarah sat in her apartment that night and memorized everything in the envelope. Lisa Park's student ID, class schedules, photos of her apartment and car, a brief biography of her father, David Park, Jin-woo's head accountant. The information was disturbingly detailed. Lisa's favorite coffee shop, her part-time job at a campus bookstore, the route she walked every night from the library to her dorm. Sarah studied Lisa's photograph. Similar height and build to Sarah, but younger, softer features. The kind of privileged college girl who had never worried about hospital bills or working 2 jobs. How long could she pretend to be someone so different? Her phone rang at exactly 9 o'clock. Tommy's voice was shaky but strong. Sarah? I'm okay. The doctor here is nice. He gave me ice cream. Are you eating enough? Taking your medicine? Yeah. The men said you had to go away for work. When are you coming back? Sarah closed her eyes. Soon, kiddo. I promise. Be brave for me, okay? Okay, I love you. I love you too. The line went dead. Sarah sat holding the phone and fought back tears. Tommy trusted her completely. He believed she would fix everything and bring him home safely. She couldn't let him down. Sarah packed a small bag with clothes and basic necessities. Tomorrow night, everything would change. She would walk the route Lisa Park took every evening and let herself be kidnapped by a dangerous man she'd never met. The plan was insane, probably suicidal, but it was the only chance she had to save Tommy. Sarah set her alarm for 6 a.m. and tried to sleep. In 12 hours, Sarah Kim would disappear. Lisa Park would take her place, at least long enough to fool a man who controlled life and death with equal ease. She just had to hope he didn't see through the deception until it was too late to matter. The university library closed at 8:30. Sarah waited in the parking lot until 9 o'clock, then began walking the route she'd memorized from Min 6 files. Down Campus Drive to University Boulevard, left on Maple Street toward the dormitories. Lisa's backpack felt foreign on her shoulders. The girl's ID card was clipped to Sarah's jacket. If anyone looked closely, the deception would fall apart immediately. But in the dark, with nervous energy making her walk faster than normal, maybe she could pass. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Min Sik. Right on schedule. Remember your motivation. Sarah deleted the message and kept walking. Streetlights created pools of yellow light every 50 feet. Her footsteps echoed off empty sidewalks. Most students were either studying inside or partying downtown. A car engine rumbled behind her. Sarah glanced back and saw headlights approaching slowly. The car matched her pace, staying about 20 feet back. Sarah's heart rate spiked. This was it. Jin Woo's men had found their target. She forced herself to maintain a normal walking speed. Don't run. Don't look back again. Act like a college student walking home from the library. The car pulled alongside her, a black SUV with tinted windows. Sarah kept her eyes forward and tried to project casual confidence. The SUV's passenger door opened. "Lisa Park?" a voice called. Sarah stopped walking. This was the moment. Once she answered to that name, there would be no taking it back. "Yes," she said. Two men got out of the SUV, both Korean, both dressed in dark clothing. They moved with the fluid precision of people comfortable with violence. "Your father sent us," the taller one said. "There's been a threat against your family. We need to take you somewhere safe." Sarah backed away. "I don't know you. I'm calling my dad." She pulled out her phone with shaking hands. The shorter man stepped forward and gently took it from her. "Your father is already secure. Time is critical." Sarah made herself look scared and confused instead of terrified. "What kind of threat? What's happening?" "We'll explain everything once you're safe. Please come with us now." The men flanked her and guided her toward the SUV. Sarah climbed into the back seat and tried to control her breathing. The doors locked with an audible click. The driver was older than the others, grey hair and steady hands on the steering wheel. He met Sarah's eyes in the rearview mirror. "Don't worry, Miss Park. Boss will keep you safe." The SUV pulled away from the curb and headed toward the highway. Sarah watched the university disappear behind them and wondered if she would survive long enough to see Tommy again. Her chest tightened as they drove deeper into the night. Every mile took her further from safety and closer to a man who could destroy her with a single phone call. But somewhere in this dangerous game, she might find a way to save her brother. That hope was worth any risk. Sarah settled back in the leather seat and prepared to meet Jin Woo Park. The SUV drove for 40 minutes through increasingly remote areas. Warehouses gave way to industrial parks, then to wooded hills outside the city. Sarah tried to memorize the route but soon gave up. Too many turns on unmarked roads. They stopped at an electronic gate set in high concrete walls. Security cameras tracked their approach. The driver entered a code, and the gate rolled open with mechanical precision. Inside was a different world, manicured lawns and mature trees, a circular driveway leading to a modern house that looked more like a fortress than a home. Floodlights illuminated every approach, and Sarah counted at least 6 men in dark suits positioned around the grounds. "Impressive," she said quietly. "Boss believes in being prepared," the grey-haired driver said. The SUV stopped at the front entrance. Sarah was escorted up wide stone steps to massive wooden doors. One of her captors pressed a doorbell. The doors opened immediately. A middle-aged Korean woman in a tailored dress stood in the entryway. "Miss Park," she said with a slight bow. "I am Mrs. Chen, the house manager. Boss is waiting in his office." Sarah followed Mrs. Chen through a foyer that belonged in a luxury hotel. Marble floors and crystal chandeliers. Original artwork on the walls. This was the home of someone with serious money and taste to match. They walked down a hallway lined with closed doors. Sarah caught glimpses of elegant rooms through open doorways. A library with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. A dining room with a table that could seat 20. Everything clean, expensive, and somehow impersonal. Mrs. Chen stopped at a heavy wooden door and knocked softly. "Enter," a voice called from inside. Mrs. Chen opened the door and stepped aside. "Miss Park is here, boss." Sarah took a deep breath and walked into the office. A man sat behind a large desk, reading documents. Dark hair and sharp features, expensive suit that fit perfectly. He looked up as she entered. Sarah's world tilted. The man behind the desk was undeniably handsome, strong jaw, intelligent eyes, an air of absolute control. But there was something familiar about his face, something that made her heart race for reasons that had nothing to do with fear. He studied her for a long moment. His expression shifted from professional concern to confusion, then to something that looked like shock. Sarah stared back at him and felt her carefully constructed deception crumble. This wasn't a stranger. This was someone she'd seen before, someone who'd known her well enough to recognize that she wasn't Lisa Park. "Sarah," he said quietly. His voice carried disbelief and something deeper, something that sounded almost like pain. "Sarah Kim." Sarah's breath caught. How did he know her real name? How did he... And then she saw it. The scar on his left temple, barely visible unless you knew to look for it. The way his eyes crinkled slightly when he was thinking. The particular set of his shoulders when he was trying to stay calm. "Jin Woo," she whispered. Jin Woo Park, the dangerous Mafia boss who'd ordered her kidnapping. Jin Woo Park was Woo. Her Woo. The boy she'd loved with everything she had 10 years ago. The boy who'd disappeared the night her whole world caught fire. The boy she'd never stopped looking for. He stood slowly, never breaking eye contact. "I thought you were dead." Sarah felt tears burn her eyes. "I thought you were too." The silence stretched between them. 10 years of grief and lost hope and desperate wondering crashed over her all at once. Sarah's legs went weak. She gripped the back of a chair and tried to breathe. "This is impossible," Jin Woo said. His voice was rough with emotion. "I know," Sarah managed. They stared at each other across his office. The scared teenager she'd loved and the dangerous man he'd become. Two people who'd been ripped apart by violence and somehow found each other in the middle of another nightmare. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text message. She looked down automatically. "How's the reunion going?" Sarah's blood went cold. Min-sik was watching, listening. He'd known exactly who Jin Woo was when he sent her here. This wasn't a case of mistaken identity. This was a carefully orchestrated trap, and Sarah had walked right into it. Sarah stared at the text message. Min-sik knew. He'd known all along that Jin Woo was Woo, her Woo. "Sarah?" Jin Woo moved around the desk toward her. "What is it?" Sarah held up her phone. Jin Woo read the message, and his expression went deadly calm. "Min-sik," he said. "You know him. We have history." Jin Woo's voice was flat, dangerous. "How did you get involved with him?" Sarah's mind raced. How much could she tell him? How much would get Tommy killed? "It's complicated," she said. "Explain it." Jin Woo's eyes found hers. "All of it." Sarah felt trapped between two impossible choices. Lie to the boy she'd loved and maybe get them both killed. Or tell the truth and risk Min-sik's revenge on Tommy. Her phone buzzed again. Another message from Min-sik. "Tell him the truth. He'll figure it out anyway. But don't mention the boy." Sarah showed Jin Woo the screen. His jaw tightened. "He's listening," Jin Woo said. "This office is swept daily for surveillance devices. He must have someone inside my organization." Sarah felt sick. "Woo, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen." Don't apologize. Just tell me what he wants. Sarah's breath caught. Hearing her old nickname for him made this feel real, made the past 10 years collapse into nothing. I witnessed something, she said carefully. A conversation about kidnapping someone, Lisa Park. My accountant's daughter. Jinwoo's expression darkened. When? 2 nights ago. I was delivering food and overheard them planning it. Sarah's hands shook. They saw me listening. So Min Sik decided to use you instead of Lisa. Jinwoo walked to the window. Send you into my territory and see what I'd do when I realized who you were. I didn't know it was you. I swear I didn't know. Jinwoo turned back to her. Something shifted in his expression. The cold mask slipped, and she saw glimpses of the boy she'd remembered every day for 10 years. I searched for you, he said quietly. After that night, I looked everywhere. Sarah's chest tightened. The police said you died in the fire. All of your family. I should have. I wanted to. Jinwoo's voice was rough. Everything burned, Sarah. Everything we had, everything we were. Gone. Sarah remembered that night in brutal detail. The screaming, the gunshots, her parents' car flipping over and over before catching fire. I was in witness protection for 3 years, she said. The marshals moved me to Portland. New name, new identity. I couldn't contact anyone from before. Why did you come back? Tommy got sick. The specialists here were the only ones who could help him. Jinwoo's eyes found hers again. Tommy. My brother. Foster brother, technically. But he's everything to me. Sarah's voice cracked. He needs surgery. $75,000. I've been working every job I can find, but it's not enough. Understanding dawned on Jinwoo's face. Min Sik is using the boy as leverage. Sarah nodded. Tears burned her eyes. He has him somewhere. Tommy's sick and scared, and I don't know if he's getting his medication. Jinwoo was quiet for a long moment. Sarah watched him think, seeing the calculating mind that had built this empire. My men brought you here thinking you were Lisa, he said finally. Min Sik expected that. He's waiting to see what I do now that I know who you really are. What are you going to do? Keep you safe. Jinwoo's voice was certain. Whatever else happens, you're safe here. Sarah's phone rang. The screen showed a number she didn't recognize. Jinwoo nodded and she answered. Hello? Sarah? Tommy's voice was small and frightened. I want to come home. Sarah felt her heart break. I know, kiddo. I'm working on it. Are you okay? Are they giving you your medicine? Yeah. But I don't like it here. The men don't talk to me. Just a little longer, okay? I promise I'll get you out of there. The man wants to talk to you, Tommy said. The phone changed hands. Min Sik's voice came through the speaker. Miss Kim, how are you enjoying your reunion? Jinwoo gestured for Sarah to put the call on speaker. What do you want? Sarah asked. The same thing I wanted yesterday, your cooperation, though the situation has become more interesting. Jinwoo stepped closer to the phone. Min Sik. Jinwoo, you sound surprised. Didn't you expect to see your lost love again? Let the boy go. This is between us. Min Sik laughed. Everything is between us, my friend. But the boy stays where he is until Miss Kim completes her assignment. Which is? Originally, simple reconnaissance. But now I'm more curious about whether blood is stronger than 10 years of separation. Sarah felt cold dread in her stomach. What does that mean? It means, my dear, that you're going to help me destroy Jinwoo's organization from the inside, or your sweet little brother will pay the price for your sentimentality. The line went dead. Sarah stared at the phone and felt the walls close in around her. He's going to kill Tommy, she whispered. No, he's not. Jinwoo's voice was steel. I won't let that happen. Sarah looked at him. Really looked. The boy she'd loved was still there somewhere behind the hard edges and careful control, but he'd become someone dangerous, someone capable of violence she couldn't imagine. What can you do against him? She asked. More than you think. Jinwoo moved to his desk and pressed a button. Mrs. Chen, please ask Hyun to come to my office. Who's Hyun? My security chief, and my oldest friend. Jin Woo met her eyes. He knew you before. He'll remember. The office door opened. A tall Korean man entered. He was lean and athletic with intelligent eyes and scars on his knuckles. When he saw Sarah, he stopped dead. "Holy shit," he said in English, then switched to Korean for a rapid exchange with Jin Woo. "Sarah Kim," Hyun said finally. "I thought you were dead." "Everyone thought that," Sarah said. "I'm starting to understand why." Hyun looked between Sarah and Jin Woo. "This complicates things. Min-sik has her brother," Jin Woo said, 8 years old, chronic illness. He's using the boy to force her cooperation. Hyun's expression hardened. "Children are off limits. Min-sik knows that. Apparently not anymore." Jin Woo pulled up security footage on his computer. Sarah was brought here under the assumption she was Lisa Park. Min-sik orchestrated the entire thing. "He wanted to see how you'd react when you realized who she was," Hyun said. "And now he knows." Jin Woo's hands clenched into fists. "The question is what we do about it." Sarah felt like she was watching a chess game where she didn't understand the rules. "What are my options here?" Both men looked at her. Hyun's expression was sympathetic but realistic. "You could run," he said. "Disappear again. New identity, new city." "And Tommy?" "Would probably die," Hyun said bluntly. "Min-sik doesn't leave loose ends." "Option 2, Jin Woo said. "You stay here under my protection while we deal with Min-sik permanently." "Deal with him how?" "However necessary." Jin Woo's voice was cold. "He threatened someone under my protection. That has consequences." Sarah felt scared and grateful and horrified all at once. The boy she'd loved had become someone who solved problems with violence, but he was also the only person who could save Tommy. "How long would it take?" she asked. "Days, maybe a week." Jin Woo moved closer to her. "Sarah, I need you to understand something. Once you're officially under my protection, there's no going back. Min-sik will see it as an act of war. And if I don't, he'll use you until you're no longer useful. Then he'll dispose of you and Tommy both." Sarah's breath caught. She thought about Tommy's trusting face, his quiet strength through months of pain and procedures. "He's all I have left," she said. Jin Woo's eyes found hers. "I know, that's why I won't let anything happen to him." Something shifted in his expression. For a moment, the dangerous mask fell away completely, and she saw the boy who used to read her poetry under the old oak tree. "Do you trust me?" he asked quietly. Sarah looked at him. This man who commanded armies and controlled territory through fear and respect. This stranger who'd once been the center of her universe. "Yes," she said. "I trust you." Mrs. Chen showed Sarah to a guest suite on the second floor. The rooms were elegant, but felt like a luxury prison. Thick carpets and expensive furniture couldn't hide the fact that the windows were bulletproof and the door had electronic locks. "Boss wants you to be comfortable," Mrs. Chen said. "Anything you need, just ask." "Thank you." Sarah sat on the edge of the king-sized bed. "Mrs. Chen, how long have you worked for him?" 8 years since he bought this house. Mrs. Chen's voice was careful. "He's a good man, fair, protective of his people, even when his people are involved in dangerous things." Mrs. Chen studied her for a moment. "Especially then." After Mrs. Chen left, Sarah explored the suite. Bedroom, sitting area, and a bathroom that was bigger than her entire apartment. Everything was beautiful and impersonal. Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "How are the accommodations?" Sarah deleted the message without responding. Min-sik was testing her, seeing how quickly she'd settle into Jin Woo's protection. Another message appeared immediately. "Silent treatment won't help your brother. He's asking for you." Sarah's hands shook. She typed back quickly. "Is he getting his medication?" "For now." Cooperation ensures continued care. Sarah wanted to throw the phone against the wall. Instead, she set it on the nightstand and tried to think clearly. She was trapped between two dangerous men who'd been playing deadly games long before she stumbled into their war. Jin Woo promised protection, but at the cost of making her part of his world. Minsik held Tommy's life as collateral for her. Obedience. There had to be a third option, some way to save Tommy without destroying what was left of her soul. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. "Come in," she called. Jin-woo entered, carrying a tray of food. "You haven't eaten since yesterday." Sarah realized she was starving. The smell of Korean comfort food made her stomach growl audibly. "Thank you," she said. Jin-woo set the tray on the small dining table and pulled out a chair for her. The gesture was so familiar it made her chest ache. "You always took care of everyone." "Shells first," he said quietly. "Someone has to." Sarah picked up chopsticks and tried the soup. It was perfect. "This tastes like your grandmother's recipe." "It is. Mrs. Chen learned it from her before she died." They ate in comfortable silence. Sarah found herself stealing glances at him. The boy she'd known was still there in small gestures and expressions, but 10 years had changed him into someone harder, more careful. "What happened to you?" she asked finally. "After that night." Jin-woo set down his chopsticks. "I spent 2 years in the hospital. Burns over 40% of my body, then 3 years learning how to survive on the streets. And then? I decided survival wasn't enough. I wanted control, power, the ability to protect the people I cared about." Sarah heard the pain underneath his controlled tone. "Was it worth it?" "I thought it was, until tonight." Their eyes met across the small table. Sarah felt the pull of old connection mixed with fear of who he'd become. "I need to ask you something," she said, "and I need you to be honest." "Okay. Have you killed people?" Jin-woo was quiet for a long moment. "Yes." Sarah's chest tightened. "How many? Does it matter?" "It might." Jin-woo leaned back in his chair. "I've killed people who threatened my family, people who hurt children, people who broke agreements that cost lives." "Do you regret it?" "I regret that it was necessary." Jin-woo's voice was steady. "I don't regret protecting people who couldn't protect themselves." Sarah thought about Tommy's frightened voice on the phone, about Minsik's casual threats, about the reality that sometimes violence was the only language certain people understood. "I don't know how to reconcile this," she said. "The person you were with, the person you've become. Maybe you can't. Maybe I'm too different now." Sarah looked at his hands, strong and scarred but gentle when he'd served her food. "You're not that different." Something shifted in his expression. Hope, maybe, or recognition. "Sarah, I need to tell you something else. About that night." Sarah's stomach clenched. "What about it?" "You weren't the only person I lost." Jin-woo's voice went rough. "Mina was there, at your house." Sarah's blood went cold. Mina, her best friend, Jin-woo's girlfriend. "She was visiting," Sarah whispered. "She was supposed to sleep over. She never made it. Out of the house." Sarah felt the room spin. Mina had died because of her, because she'd invited her best friend over the same night gang violence destroyed both their families. "Jin-woo, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. It wasn't your fault." His voice was fierce. "None of it was your fault." Sarah started crying. 10 years of suppressed guilt and grief poured out all at once. Jin-woo moved around the table and pulled her into his arms. She let herself cry against his chest, let herself feel the solid warmth of someone who understood exactly what she'd lost. For the first time in a decade, she wasn't alone with the pain. "I missed you," she whispered against his shirt. "I missed you too." His arms tightened around her. Every single day. They held each other in the elegant guest room and grieved for the people they'd been before violence taught them that love was something you could lose in a single night. Sarah's phone buzzed on the nightstand. They both looked at it but didn't move apart. "He's watching," Sarah said. "Let him watch." Jin-woo's voice was steel. "Let him see that you're under my protection. Now." Sarah pulled back to look at his face. "What does that mean exactly?" "It means Minsik will have to go through me to get to you, and I won't make that easy." Another text appeared on Sarah's phone. She could see it from where they sat. Touching reunion. Don't forget what you're really there for. Jin-woo read the message over her shoulder. His expression went cold and dangerous. He's going to escalate, he said. What do you mean? Min-sik expected you to gather intelligence and report back. Instead, you're accepting my protection. That changes his timeline. Sarah felt dread pool in her stomach. Changes it how? He'll try to force your hand, make you choose between Tommy's safety and your loyalty to me. That's not a choice. Tommy comes first. I know. That's why we need to find him before Min-sik makes you prove it. Jin-woo stood and moved to the window. The security floodlights illuminated the grounds in harsh detail. Men patrolled the perimeter in coordinated patterns. How do we find Tommy? Sarah asked. Carefully. Min-sik will be expecting us to look. He'll use the search to set a trap. Sarah joined him at the window. So what do? We make him think he's winning. Let him believe you're gathering intelligence while we locate Tommy through other channels. You want me to spy on you? I want you to pretend to spy on me. Jin-woo turned to face her. Give Min-sik enough real information to keep him satisfied while we work behind the scenes. It was a dangerous game. Sarah would be feeding information to a man who wanted to destroy Jin-woo while depending on Jin-woo to save Tommy. What if something goes wrong? She asked. Then we adapt. Jin-woo's eyes found hers. Sarah, I need you to understand something. I will not let anything happen to Tommy, but I also won't let anything happen to you. Even if it costs you everything? Even then. Sarah stared at him. The boy she'd loved had grown into someone who commanded respect through strength and fear. But underneath the hard exterior, his protective instincts were stronger than ever. Okay, she said. I'll do it. Jin-woo nodded. We'll start tomorrow. Tonight you should rest. He moved toward the door, then stopped. Sarah, for what it's worth, I'm glad you're alive, even under these circumstances. Me too, she said. After he left, Sarah sat on the bed and tried to process everything that had happened. 12 hours ago, she'd been a broke coffee shop worker desperate to save her brother. Now she was living in a fortress, protected by a man who'd become one of the most dangerous people in the city. Her phone buzzed with another message from Min-sik. Sweet dreams. Tomorrow, the real work begins. Sarah turned off the phone and pulled the blackout curtains closed. Tomorrow she would begin the most dangerous deception of her life. Tonight she would try to sleep in a dead woman's bed and pretend she wasn't terrified of what morning would bring. Sarah woke to sunlight streaming through bulletproof glass and the sound of her phone buzzing insistently. 3 missed calls from Min-sik and a text message. Time to earn your keep. Report to the coffee shop downtown. Act normal. I'll be in touch. Sarah sat up and tried to orient herself. The elegant guest suite felt surreal in daylight, like a fever dream of luxury and danger. A soft knock interrupted her thoughts. Mrs. Chen entered with a breakfast tray and fresh clothes. Boss thought you might prefer your own style, Mrs. Chen said, indicating jeans and a sweater that actually fit. How did he? He sent someone to your apartment early this morning. Your landlord was very cooperative. Sarah felt a chill. Jin-woo's reach extended everywhere. Even her private space wasn't really private anymore. Thank you, she said. Mrs. Chen set down the tray and hesitated. Miss Sarah, boss is a good man, but his world is dangerous. Be careful who you trust. After Mrs. Chen left, Sarah ate quickly and got dressed. The clothes smelled like her apartment, like the life she'd been living before everything went sideways. Another text from Min-sik appeared as she finished breakfast. Hyun will drive you. Make him believe you're reluctant but cooperative. And remember, I'm watching everything. Sarah deleted the message and tried to prepare herself for another day of deception. She had to convince Hyun that she was reluctantly gathering intelligence for Min-sik while actually working with Jin-woo to find Tommy. The complexity made her head spin. A knock on her door announced Hyun's arrival. He stood in the hallway wearing dark jeans and a leather jacket, looking more like a businessman than a security chief. Ready? He asked. As I'll ever be. They walked through the house to a garage that held more cars than most dealerships. Hyun selected a modest sedan instead of the obvious luxury vehicles. Staying inconspicuous, he explained. They drove toward the city in comfortable silence. Sarah watched the landscape change from wooded hills to suburban neighborhoods to urban density. "Can I ask you something?" Sarah said as they hit downtown traffic. "How bad is this situation, really?" Hyun considered the question carefully. "Min-sik has been looking for a way to hurt Boss for years. Personal vendettas run deeper than business disputes." "What kind of vendetta?" "The kind that starts with dead family members." Hyun's voice was matter-of-fact. "Min-sik's brother was killed in a territorial dispute 3 years ago. Boss wasn't directly involved, but Min-sik holds him responsible." Sarah felt sick. "So this isn't just about business. It's about revenge, which makes it more dangerous." Hyun pulled up outside the coffee shop where Sarah worked. "Min-sik wants to destroy everything Boss cares about. You represent an opportunity to do that from the inside. And if I can't pull off this deception, then people die, starting with your brother." Sarah stared at the familiar coffee shop. Yesterday she'd been just another employee struggling to pay bills. Now she was a key piece in a deadly game between powerful men. "Hyun, was Jin-woo telling the truth about Mina?" Hyun's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Yes, she died in the same fire that nearly killed him. That's when he stopped being a scared kid and started becoming boss." Sarah nodded and got out of the car. The morning rush was in full swing. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that the tired-looking woman serving their coffee was caught between warring crime families. Marcus looked relieved when she walked in. "Sarah, where were you yesterday? I tried calling." "Family emergency," Sarah said. "I'm sorry I didn't call ahead. Everything okay now?" Sarah tied on her apron and tried to look normal. "Getting better." Her phone buzzed 30 minutes into her shift. A text from Min-sik. "Good girl. Now listen carefully. Tonight there's a meeting at Jin-woo's house. Business associates discussing territory disputes. I need to know who attends and what's discussed." Sarah's hands shook as she steamed milk for a latte. How was she supposed to get information about a private meeting? She was a guest, not a trusted advisor. Another text appeared. "Ask to help serve refreshments. Jin-woo won't refuse someone he's protecting. Play the role of grateful victim." Sarah served the latte with a forced smile and tried to think. Min-sik's plan was clever. Jin-woo would want to appear protective and generous in front of his associates. Refusing Sarah's request to help would seem suspicious, but it also meant Sarah would be directly spying on people who trusted Jin-woo, people who might die if she gave Min-sik the wrong information. Her phone buzzed again. "Tommy asks about you every hour. Don't disappoint him." Sarah closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Tommy. Everything came back to Tommy. She pulled out her phone and texted Jin-woo. "Can I help with dinner tonight? I feel useless just sitting around." The response came quickly. "Are you sure? It might be boring business talk." "I don't mind. I want to contribute somehow." "Okay. Mrs. Chen will brief you on protocols." Sarah deleted the conversation and went back to making coffee. Tonight, she would serve food to Jin-woo's inner circle and memorize everything she heard. Then she would decide how much of it Min-sik needed to know to keep Tommy alive. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of nervous energy and forced normalcy. Hyun picked her up at closing time and drove her back to the compound without comment. Mrs. Chen was waiting when they arrived. "Boss told me you want to help with tonight's service." "If that's okay." "Of course. But there are rules." Mrs. Chen's voice was serious. "You serve food and drinks. You don't speak unless spoken to. You don't react to anything you hear, understood?" "Understood. And Miss Sarah? Tonight's guests are very important people. Their privacy is sacred. Boss trusts you to honor that." Sarah felt the weight of expectation and guilt settle on her shoulders. "I won't betray his trust." Mrs. Chen studied her for a long moment. "I hope not, for everyone's sake." 6 black cars arrived at exactly 7 o'clock. Sarah watched from an upstairs window as men in expensive suits emerged and were escorted to the main entrance. Everyone was Korean, except for one. older white man who moved with obvious authority. Sarah wore a simple black dress and comfortable shoes. Mrs. Chen had coached her on proper service protocol and the subtle art of being invisible while working. "Remember," Mrs. Chen said as they prepared the dining room, "you see everything and nothing. Understand?" "I understand." The guests gathered in Jin Woo's private dining room. Sarah counted 8 men total, including Jin Woo and Hyun. She recognized none of them, but their bearing suggested power and wealth. Jin Woo sat at the head of the table. He wore a charcoal suit that emphasized his broad shoulders and commanded automatic respect. When Sarah entered with the first course, his eyes found hers briefly, and he nodded almost imperceptibly. The conversation was initially social: business updates, family news, shared jokes in Korean and English. Sarah moved between the kitchen and dining room, serving food and refilling drinks while trying to memorize faces and names. The white man was called Peterson, older, silver-haired, with the confidence of someone accustomed to power. He spoke with a slight accent that might have been Russian or Eastern European. "The shipping contracts are secured," Peterson said, as Sarah cleared soup bowls. "My people have confirmed the routes." "Excellent," Jin Woo said. "What about port security?" "Handled. Your cargo will clear customs without inspection." Sarah's chest tightened. They were talking about smuggling, something valuable enough to require corrupted officials and careful planning. Another man spoke up. "The LA connection wants to expand the partnership, double the monthly volume." "Too risky," Hyun said. "We agreed on conservative growth." "Conservative doesn't pay the bills," the LA man replied. Jin Woo raised a hand for silence. "We honor our agreements. Growth happens when it's sustainable, not when someone gets greedy." Sarah served the main course and tried to look invisible while absorbing every detail. Names, relationships, business territories, information that could destroy Jin Woo's organization if it reached the wrong ears. Her phone was in her pocket, set to silent. She could feel it like a weight against her leg, waiting for Min Sik's inevitable demands for details. "The Eastern District situation is resolved," another guest reported. "The family that was causing problems has agreed to relocate." "Voluntarily?" Jin Woo asked. "After persuasion?" Several men chuckled. Sarah's hands shook as she poured wine, understanding that persuasion probably meant violence or the threat of it. Peterson leaned back in his chair. "Your efficiency is admirable, Jin Woo, but efficiency can become predictability. Your enemies study your patterns." "Which enemies specifically?" Jin Woo's voice was carefully neutral. "Min Sik is making moves, quiet ones. He's been recruiting from the younger families." Sarah's breath caught. They were discussing Min Sik directly. "Let him recruit," Jin Woo said. "Quantity doesn't equal quality." "Don't underestimate him," Peterson warned. "He's smarter than his brother was and more patient." Hyun spoke up. "We're monitoring the situation." "Monitoring isn't enough," another guest said. "Min Sik won't wait forever to make his move." Jin Woo's eyes swept the room. "Min Sik can make whatever moves he wants. I have something he doesn't." "Which is?" "Loyalty." Jin Woo's gaze rested briefly on Sarah. "People who choose to stand with me instead of being forced into service." The conversation moved to other topics: financial reports, territorial agreements, upcoming challenges. Sarah continued serving while her mind raced with implications. Jin Woo was sending her a message. He knew she was reporting to Min Sik, and he was giving her information specifically crafted for that purpose. The question was whether Min Sik would recognize the manipulation. After the main course, Sarah retreated to the kitchen to help prepare dessert. Her phone buzzed insistently. 3 messages from Min Sik. Report. Now. What are they discussing? I'm losing patience. Sarah typed quickly, while Mrs. Chen arranged pastries on serving plates. Business updates. Shipping contracts with someone named Peterson. Territory disputes in Eastern District. What about Min Sik? Did they mention him? Sarah hesitated. Lying would be discovered eventually, but the whole truth might trigger immediate retaliation. Peterson warned them you're recruiting new allies. Jin Woo said he's not worried. Arrogant fool. What else? Nothing concrete. They're being careful. What they say in front of strangers. You're not a stranger. You're supposed to be earning trust. Sarah's hands shook as she typed her response. It takes time. Pushing too hard will make them suspicious. Time is something your brother doesn't have. Improve your performance or face consequences. Sarah deleted the conversation and returned to the dining room. The guests were finishing dessert, and the conversation had turned to lighter topics. Jin Woo caught her eye and gestured subtly toward the kitchen. Sarah understood and began clearing dessert plates. "Gentlemen," Jin Woo said as she worked, "thank you for coming. Tonight. Same time next month?" General agreement around the table. The meeting was ending. Sarah retreated to the kitchen as the guests prepared to leave. Through the window, she watched expensive cars disappear into the night. Jin Woo appeared in the kitchen doorway 10 minutes later. "How did it go?" "I think I managed not to embarrass anyone." "Good." Jin Woo moved closer. "Sarah, we need to talk. Privately." They walked to his office. Jin Woo closed the door and activated what looked like a white noise generator. "Did you report to Min Sik?" he asked. "Yes." Sarah felt sick, admitting it. "I had to. He threatened Tommy." "What did you tell him?" Sarah repeated the conversation verbatim. Jin Woo nodded thoughtfully. "That's exactly what I hoped you'd say." Sarah stared at him. "You wanted me to tell him about Peterson and the territories." "Peterson is former KGB. He works for the FBI now. Everything he said tonight was carefully crafted to mislead Min Sik." "And the territory disputes. Real, but not sensitive. Information Min Sik could get from other sources." Jin Woo sat behind his desk. "The question is whether he'll accept partial intelligence or demand more access." Sarah's phone buzzed. "Another message from Min Sik. Tomorrow. Jin Woo's personal office. Find his private files." Sarah showed Jin Woo the screen. His expression darkened. "He's escalating faster than I hoped." "What do I do?" "You give him what he wants. Carefully edited files that will send him in the wrong direction." Jin Woo opened a safe behind his desk and pulled out several folders. "These contain real intelligence about my operations, locations, financial records, personnel files." Sarah felt dizzy. "You want me to steal from you?" "I want you to steal files I've prepared specifically for Min Sik. Real, enough to satisfy his experts, misleading enough to protect my people." It was an impossible balancing act. Too obvious, and Min Sik would see through the deception. Too real, and Sarah would be responsible for destroying innocent lives. "What about Tommy?" she asked. Jin Woo's voice was gentle but firm. "We'll find him. But Sarah, you need to understand something. Min Sik isn't planning to honor any agreements. Once he has what he wants, he'll dispose of both you and Tommy." "Then what's the point of any of this?" "The point is buying time. Every day we keep Min Sik. Focused on this game is another day my people have to locate Tommy and plan a rescue." Sarah sank into a chair. The weight of deception and danger and impossible choices pressed down on her. "I don't know if I can do this," she said. Jin Woo moved around the desk and knelt beside her chair. "Sarah, look at me." She met his eyes. They were the same dark brown she remembered from 10 years ago, but harder now, scarred by experience and loss. "I will not let Min Sik hurt you or Tommy," he said. "Whatever it costs, whatever it takes. Do you believe me?" Sarah searched his face and saw the boy who'd once promised to protect her from everything, the boy who'd loved her enough to search for her even when everyone said she was dead. "Yes," she said, "I believe you." "Then trust me a little longer. Tomorrow you steal files from my office. Next week we end this." Sarah's breath caught. "How?" Jin Woo's expression went cold and dangerous. "By giving Min Sik exactly what he deserves." Sarah woke before dawn with her stomach in knots. Today she would steal files from Jin Woo's office and hand them to a man who wanted to destroy everything he'd built. The irony wasn't lost on her. 10 years ago, she'd have done anything to protect Woo. Now she was betraying him to save Tommy. Mrs. Chen brought breakfast and news that made Sarah's chest tighten. "Boss had to leave early. Business emergency downtown." Mrs. Chen's voice was careful. He said you should proceed as planned. Sarah felt abandoned and relieved at the same time. Easier to steal from an empty office. Harder to face what she was doing without seeing Jin Woo's trust in her eyes. When will he be back? Unknown. The situation requires his personal attention. Sarah ate without tasting anything. Her phone buzzed with the expected message from Min Sik. Office is empty. Perfect timing. Hyun is driving you downtown for coffee shop shift. Disappear during lunch break. Return to compound. Access the files. Simple, simple. As if betraying the man she was falling in love with again could ever be simple. Another message appeared. Your brother slept poorly. Kept asking for his sister. Don't disappoint him. Sarah felt sick. She deleted the messages and finished her tasteless breakfast. Hyun was waiting by the car, expression unreadable. They drove toward the city in silence until Sarah couldn't stand it anymore. Do you know what I'm supposed to do today? She asked. I know boss trusts you to make the right choices. What if the right choice isn't clear? Hyun glanced at her. Then you choose the option that lets you sleep at night. Sarah wanted to laugh. She hadn't slept well since this nightmare began, but she understood what he meant. Some betrayals carved permanent scars on your soul. Hyun, if something happens to me, will you help Tommy anyway? Nothing will happen to you. But if it does, boss would burn down half the city before he let anything happen to you. Hyun's voice was certain, and then he'd burn down the other half for good measure. They reached the coffee shop. Sarah got out and tried to act normal for the morning rush, grinding beans and steaming milk while her mind raced with anxiety. Marcus commented on her distraction twice. Jen asked if she was feeling sick. Sarah forced smiles and made conversation while watching the clock crawl toward noon. At 11:30, Sarah told Marcus she needed a long lunch break. Family. Business again. He waved her away with obvious concern. Sarah walked 3 blocks before calling a taxi. She gave the driver Jin Woo's address and tried not to think about what she was about to do. The compound looked different in daylight. Less fortress-like, more like an expensive estate. Sarah used the security code Jin Woo had given her and walked through gardens that must have cost more than her annual salary. Mrs. Chen was in the kitchen preparing lunch. Back early, Miss Sarah? Jin Woo asked me to get some documents from his office. Mrs. Chen nodded without suspicion. Sarah's heart hammered as she walked down the hallway to Jin Woo's private domain. The office door was unlocked. Sarah stepped inside and activated the white noise generator Jin Woo had used the night before. If anyone was listening, they'd hear nothing useful. Jin Woo's desk was organized and immaculate. Sarah opened the bottom drawer where he'd shown her the prepared files. 3 manila folders sat exactly where she expected. Sarah opened the first folder and scanned the contents. Financial records for legitimate businesses. Shipping manifests for legal cargo. Employee information with personal details redacted. It looked real. Detailed enough to convince experts, but sanitized enough to protect innocent people. The second folder contained territorial maps with coded locations marked in red ink. Sarah recognized some street names but couldn't decipher the significance. Supply chain information maybe, or safe house locations. The third folder held personnel files with photographs attached. Sarah recognized several faces from last night's dinner. Their real names were replaced with code names, but their roles were clearly described. Sarah felt her breath catch as she read through the files. Even sanitized, this information could get people killed. Min Sik would use it to plan attacks, identify vulnerabilities, hurt Jin Woo's organization. Her phone buzzed. Min Sik again. Status report. Do you have the files? Sarah typed quickly. Working on it. Security is tighter than expected. You have 1 hour. After that, your brother's medication schedule becomes irregular. Sarah's hands shook as she photographed each page with her phone's camera. Dozens of documents, financial records, personnel files, operational details. Each photo felt like a betrayal. Each image she captured was ammunition in Min Sik's war against Jin Woo. When she finished, Sarah carefully replaced the folders in their exact positions. She cleaned her fingerprints from the desk, surface, and turned off the white noise generator. Walking out of the office felt like crossing a line she could never uncross. Sarah found Mrs. Chen in the kitchen and made small talk about dinner plans. Then she left the compound and took a taxi back to the coffee shop. Her phone buzzed immediately. Upload the photos to the secure server. Link attached. Do it now. Sarah's finger hovered over the upload button. Once she transmitted these files, Min Sik would have everything he needed to hurt Jinwoo's people. She thought about Tommy's scared voice asking when she was coming home. About his trust that she would fix everything and keep him safe. Sarah pressed upload. The photos transferred in seconds. Dozens of pages of intelligence flowing from her phone to Min Sik's servers. Evidence of Jinwoo's operations, personnel, and vulnerabilities. Sarah deleted the photos from her phone and tried not to cry. Jinwoo returned to the compound at sunset. Sarah was in the garden, sitting on a stone bench and trying to convince herself she'd had no choice. "How was your day?" he asked, settling beside her. "Productive," Sarah said. The word tasted like ash. Jinwoo studied her face. "You look upset. I'm worried about Tommy and tired of feeling helpless." "You're not helpless. You're doing exactly what needs to be done." Sarah's chest tightened. Jinwoo still trusted her completely, still believed she was working with him instead of against him. "What if Min Sik doesn't keep his word?" she asked. "What if he hurts Tommy anyway? Then we'll deal with the consequences." Jinwoo's voice was steel. "Sarah, I need to tell you something. My people located the building where they're holding Tommy." Sarah's heart stopped. "Where?" "Industrial district, converted warehouse with medical. Facilities on the second floor." Jinwoo pulled out his phone and showed her surveillance photos. "He's being held with several other children." "Other children?" "Min Sik has been collecting leverage, kids whose parents owe money or have information he wants." Sarah felt sick. Tommy wasn't Min Sik's only victim. There were other families being torn apart by this monster's greed. "How many children?" she asked. "6 that we can confirm. Ages 5 to 12. Jinwoo's expression was grim. "All of them need medical care that Min Sik is using to ensure cooperation." Sarah's breath came short and fast. "We have to get them out." "We will, but carefully. Min Sik has the building wired with explosives. One wrong move and everyone inside dies." Sarah stared at the surveillance photos. The building looked ordinary from the outside, a business like any other in the industrial district. But inside, children were being held as human shields. "What's the plan?" she asked. "We wait for Min Sik to make a mistake, push him toward desperation so he acts rashly instead of carefully." "How long will that take?" "Not long. The files you transmitted today will accelerate his timeline." Sarah's stomach dropped. Jinwoo knew about the files, had known she would steal them and deliver them to Min Sik. "You're not angry?" she asked quietly. "I'm proud of you." Jinwoo's voice was gentle. "I know how much that cost you." Sarah felt tears burn her eyes. "I betrayed you." "You saved lives. Those files will keep Min Sik focused on targets that don't exist while we plan his destruction." "What if he figures out they're fake?" "He won't. My people are very good at creating convincing lies." Jinwoo took her hand. "Sarah, everything you've done has been exactly what I hoped you'd do." Sarah looked at their joined hands. His fingers were warm and strong, scarred from violence but gentle when they touched her. "I don't understand how you can be so calm about this," she said, "because I know how it ends. Min Sik loses. The children go home. You and Tommy are safe." "And if you're wrong?" Jinwoo's eyes found hers. "Then I'll adapt, but I won't be wrong." His confidence was absolute. Sarah felt some of her guilt ease, replaced by something that might have been hope. "When do we move against him?" she asked. "Soon. Min Sik will act on the intelligence you provided within 48 hours. When he does, we'll be ready." Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Min Sik. "Excellent work. Your brother will have a special dinner tonight to celebrate. Phase 2 begins tomorrow." "Phase 2?" Sarah showed Jinwoo the message. His expression darkened. "He's accelerating faster than I expected." Another message appeared. "Jinwoo has a weakness now. You. Time to exploit it." Sarah felt cold dread pool in her stomach. "What does that mean?" Jinwoo stood and pulled her up with him. It means we're out of time. Min-sik is going to force a direct confrontation. When? Tonight. Maybe tomorrow. Jin-woo's voice was grim. He'll use Tommy to make you choose between his safety and mine. Sarah's chest tightened. That's not a choice. Tommy comes first. I know. That's why we're going to get him back before Min-sik can use him as leverage. They walked toward the house as security lights flicked on around the grounds. Sarah counted at least 8 guards patrolling the perimeter. More than usual. You're expecting trouble, she said. I'm always expecting trouble. Tonight, I'm preparing for it. Inside the house, Hyun was coordinating with a team of men Sarah had never seen before. Everyone was armed and moved with military precision. Status report, Jin-woo said. Thermal imaging confirms 6 children on the 2nd floor, Hyun replied. Adult heat signatures on floors 1 and 3. Estimate 12 to 15 guards total. Explosives? Wired to the main support beams. Remote detonation. We'd have maybe 30 seconds to evacuate after the signal. Jin-woo studied building schematics spread across the dining room table. Entry points? Front entrance is too exposed. Service door on the east side has minimal coverage. Roof access is possible but risky. Sarah watched them plan the rescue and felt helpless. These men were risking their lives to save children they'd never met, including her brother. What can I do? She asked. Jin-woo looked up from the schematics. Stay safe. Let us handle this. Tommy doesn't know you. He'll be terrified, but he trusts me. Sarah, it's too dangerous. He's 8 years old and sick and scared. If you go in shooting, he might panic and get hurt. Sarah's voice was firm. I need to be there. Hyun spoke up. She has a point. Children respond better to familiar faces in crisis situations. Jin-woo was quiet for a long moment. Sarah watched him weigh risks and benefits with the calculating mind that had built his empire. You follow orders exactly, he said finally. No heroics. No deviating from the plan. Understood. And Sarah? If something goes wrong, you protect yourself first. Tommy needs you alive more than he needs you dead. Sarah nodded, even though they both knew she would sacrifice herself for Tommy without hesitation. Her phone rang. Dr. Chen's number appeared on the screen. Miss Kim. Dr. Chen's voice was strained. I'm calling about Tommy. Sarah's heart stopped. What's wrong? Is he okay? He was brought to our emergency department 30 minutes ago. Severe cardiac distress. His current caretakers said you gave permission for treatment. Sarah felt the world tilt. Min-sik had Tommy at the hospital, in public, surrounded by witnesses and security cameras. Is he stable? She managed. For now. But Miss Kim, his medication schedule has been irregular. We need to discuss his treatment plan immediately. I'm coming now. Sarah hung up and turned to Jin-woo. Tommy's at the hospital. Emergency cardiac episode. Jin-woo's expression went deadly calm. It's a trap. I don't care. He's sick and scared and needs me. Sarah, listen to me. Min-sik is using Tommy's medical crisis to force you into the open. The moment you arrive at that hospital, you're in his control. Sarah felt tears burn her eyes. Then what do I do? Let my brother think I abandoned him? Jin-woo moved to her and took her face in his hands. We go together, carefully, with backup. Min-sik will see your people coming. Not if we're smart about it. Jin-woo turned to Hyun. How quickly can you position teams around the hospital? 20 minutes, but boss, if this goes wrong, it won't go wrong. Jin-woo's voice was certain. Min-sik wants a confrontation. We'll give him one, on our terms. Sarah's breath caught. You're going to end this tonight. One way or another. Jin-woo's eyes found hers. She saw determination and something deeper. Something that looked like love, mixed with desperation. Whatever happens, he said quietly, I need you to know something. These past few days with you have been the best I've had in 10 years. Sarah felt her heart break and mend at the same time. Jin-woo, I love you. I never stopped loving you. And I won't let Min-sik take that away from us again. Sarah's breath caught. I love you too. They looked at each other across the dining room table and saw past and future colliding. The teenagers who'd been torn apart by violence, and the adults who'd found each other again against impossible odds. "Are you ready for this?" Jin-woo asked. Sarah thought about Tommy lying in a hospital bed, scared and sick, and asking for her. About the other children Min-sik was using as leverage. About the man standing in front of her who'd risked everything to protect her. "Yes," she said, "let's end this." The hospital parking garage was eerily quiet for 8 o'clock at night. Sarah sat in the passenger seat of Jin-woo's SUV and watched for threats while Hyun's voice crackled through the radio. "Teams in position, exits covered, medical floor secured." Jin-woo checked his weapon one final time. "Remember the plan. We get Tommy and leave. No unnecessary confrontation." Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from Min-sik, room 314. "Come alone or the boy's heart stops beating." "Room 314. Sarah said, "Tommy's old room." Jin-woo nodded grimly. Min-sik chose it deliberately. Psychological pressure. They walked through the lobby like any other worried family members. Sarah signed in at the desk while Jin-woo hung back, scanning for threats. The elevator ride to the 3rd floor felt endless. Sarah's heart hammered against her ribs as they walked down the familiar hallway. Room 314's door was closed. Sarah could hear the steady beep of heart monitors from inside. "Ready?" Jin-woo asked quietly. Sarah nodded and pushed open the door. Tommy lay in the hospital bed, pale and small, against white sheets. IV lines snaked from his arms to multiple machines. His eyes lit up when he saw her. "Sarah!" He tried to sit up. "Easy, kiddo." Sarah rushed to his bedside and took his hand. "How are you feeling?" "Tired, scared. The men said you were coming." Sarah looked around the room. No sign of Min-sik or his people, just Tommy and the medical equipment keeping him stable. "Where are the men who brought you here?" Jin-woo asked gently. Tommy looked confused. "They left after the doctors came, said they'd be back." Sarah felt dread pool in her stomach. Min-sik had abandoned Tommy at the hospital. That wasn't like him. He never gave up leverage willingly. Jin-woo moved to the window and looked out at the parking lot. "Something's wrong." "What do you mean?" "This is too easy. Min-sik doesn't give up his advantages without a reason." Sarah's phone rang. Min-sik's number appeared on the screen. "Put it on speaker," Jin-woo said. Sarah answered. "Hello? Miss Kim, how lovely to see you reunited with your brother." Min-sik's voice was smooth, satisfied. "Where are you?" "Close enough to watch, far enough to stay safe." Min-sik chuckled. "Tell me, how does it feel to have everything you want within reach?" Sarah looked at Tommy's trusting face, then at Jin-woo standing guard by the window. "What do you want?" "I want you to make a choice. Tommy's life or Jin-woo's life. You can't save both." Sarah's chest tightened. "That's not a choice." "Oh, but it is. The building where I was holding the other children? It's wired to explode in exactly 10 minutes. Jin-woo can race there and try to save them. But if he leaves, Tommy's heart monitor will detect the stress and trigger a cardiac event that will kill him." Sarah stared at the heart monitor. The rhythm looked normal, but she wasn't a doctor. "You're bluffing," she said. "Am I? Check Tommy's IV bag." Sarah looked at the clear fluid dripping into Tommy's arm. It looked like normal saline, but there was something else mixed in, something that could affect his heart rate. "You poisoned him," she whispered. "I gave him a choice of medicines. One keeps his heart stable as long as he remains calm. The other triggers immediate cardiac arrest if his stress levels spike." Jin-woo moved closer to the bed. "What will it take for you to release the children and reverse whatever you've given Tommy?" "Simple. You, in exchange for them. Come to the warehouse alone and unarmed. I'll provide the antidote and disarm the explosives." Sarah felt sick. "It's a trap." "Of course it's a trap," Min-sik said cheerfully. "But it's the only way to save everyone you both claim to love." Jin-woo's expression was deadly calm. "How do I know you'll honor the agreement?" "You don't. But you know what happens if you refuse. 6 children die in an explosion. Tommy dies from cardiac arrest, and Sarah lives with the knowledge that her choices killed everyone she tried to protect." The line went dead. Sarah stared at the phone and felt her world collapse. "He's right," she said quietly. "If you stay, Tommy dies when his stress levels spike. If you go, you die and the children might still be killed." Jin Woo was quiet for a long moment. "There's a third option." "What?" "We save everyone." Jin Woo pulled out his phone and called Hyun. "Change of plans, I need teams at the warehouse in 80 minutes, full assault, no negotiation. Boss, if you go in shooting..." "I'm not going in shooting, I'm going in talking. Buy me enough time to locate the detonator and identify the drug in Tommy's IV." Jin Woo hung up and turned to Sarah. "I need you to keep Tommy calm. Whatever happens, don't let his heart rate spike." "What are you going to do?" "End this." Jin Woo leaned down and kissed her forehead. "Sarah, if something goes wrong..." "Nothing will go wrong," she said fiercely. "Come back to us." Jin Woo's eyes found hers. "I love you." "I love you too." He left the room at a run. Sarah heard his footsteps echoing down the hallway, then the ding of elevator doors. Tommy squeezed her hand. "Is he going to save the other kids?" Sarah looked at her brother's trusting face and made him a promise she hoped she could keep. "Yes, kiddo, he's going to save everyone." Sarah sat beside Tommy's bed and watched the heart monitor trace steady rhythms across the screen. 7 minutes until the warehouse exploded. 6 children depending on Jin Woo to reach them in time. "Sarah," Tommy's voice was small, "am I going to die?" "No." Sarah's voice was fierce. "You're going to get better and we're going to go home and you're going to build that tree fort you've been planning." "Promise?" Sarah squeezed his hand. "I promise." Her phone buzzed with updates from Hyun. Teams in position. Boss approaching warehouse, buildings secured, children located, explosives identified, working on disarming. Sarah felt her breath catch. They'd found the children alive. Now Jin Woo just had to survive whatever trap Min Sik had prepared. Tommy's heart rate spiked slightly. The monitor beeped faster. "Stay calm, kiddo," Sarah said. "Everything's going to be okay." "I'm scared," Tommy whispered. "I know, but remember what Mom used to say. Brave isn't about not being scared. Brave is doing the right thing even when you're terrified." Tommy nodded and closed his eyes. The heart monitor settled back to normal rhythm. Sarah's phone rang. Jin Woo's number. "Sarah." His voice was strained, distant. "Are you okay? Did you find the children?" "They're safe. Building's clear. But Sarah, I need to tell you something." Sarah's chest tightened. "What?" "Min Sik isn't here. This was another diversion. He's coming for you." "What do you mean?" "The real target was never the children or me. It was you. He wanted us separated so he could take you without interference." Sarah felt cold terror wash over her. "How long do I have?" "I don't know. Hospital security is compromised. Some of the guards are working for him." Sarah looked toward the door. The hallway outside was too quiet. No nurses chatting. No footsteps on linoleum. No normal hospital sounds. "Jin Woo, Tommy's been poisoned. If his heart rate spikes..." "I know. Dr. Chen is on his way with the antidote, but Sarah, you need to hide now." Sarah heard elevator doors opening. Down the hall, footsteps approaching. Too many people moving with too much purpose. "They're here," she whispered. "Sarah, listen to me. Whatever happens, keep Tommy calm. The antidote will be there in 5 minutes." "What about you?" "I'm coming. Hold on." The line went dead. Sarah looked at Tommy's peaceful face and made a decision that would change everything. She couldn't run without risking Tommy's life. Couldn't fight without medical training to help him if something went wrong. Couldn't call for help without alerting Min Sik's people to their exact location. Sarah was trapped with her dying brother in a room surrounded by enemies. But she wasn't helpless. Sarah pulled out her phone and activated the emergency recording app. Whatever happened next, there would be evidence, proof of Min Sik's crimes and the children he'd used as weapons. The door handle turned slowly. Sarah positioned herself between Tommy and whoever was coming through that door. Min Sik entered with 4 armed men. He looked exactly like his photographs. Middle-aged, well-dressed, with the kind of cold intelligence that made empires and destroyed lives. "Miss Kim," he said politely, "at last we meet properly." "Stay away from him," Sarah said. "Relax. I have no interest in hurting children. They're simply tools for motivating adults." Min-sik gestured, and two of his men moved to flank Tommy's bed. Sarah felt helpless rage burn in her chest. "What do you want?" "Closure." Min-sik pulled out a chair and sat down like he was visiting a friend. 10 years ago, your actions set in motion a chain of events that destroyed my family." Sarah stared at him. "I was 18 years old. I didn't destroy anyone's family. You witnessed my brother's murder. Your testimony sent 3 of my men to prison. My organization collapsed." Sarah's mind raced back to that terrible night. The police interviews, the trial where she'd testified about seeing gang members execute her parents and burn down their house. "Your brother killed innocent people," she said. "My brother protected our territory from Jin Woo's expansion. Your family was collateral damage." Sarah felt sick. "You're blaming me for surviving. I'm blaming you for talking." Min-sik's voice was matter-of-fact. "If you'd stayed quiet, my men would have walked free. My organization would have remained strong. And more innocent people would have died. Perhaps, but not my people." Min-sik stood and moved, closer to Tommy's bed. "Tonight, you're going to correct that mistake. You're going to recant your testimony and admit you lied to protect Jin Woo." Sarah's chest tightened. "Even if I wanted to, it's too late. Those men are already in prison. Appeals can be filed, convictions can be overturned. You're going to call a press conference and tell the world you committed perjury." "And if I refuse?" Min-sik nodded toward Tommy. "Your brother's medication runs out in 2 hours. Without the antidote, his heart will stop." Sarah felt trapped between impossible choices: destroy her own credibility and let murderers walk free, or watch Tommy die because she refused to lie. "How do I know you'll give him the antidote after I confess?" "You don't." Min-sik smiled without warmth. "But you know what happens if you refuse." Sarah looked at Tommy's sleeping face. He trusted her completely, believed she would always find a way to protect him. Her phone buzzed. A text message, 2 minutes out. "Keep him talking." Hyun was coming, with backup and medical support. Sarah just had to buy time. "I need to understand something," she said. "Why wait 10 years? Why not come after me sooner?" "I tried. Witness protection hid you well, but when you returned to care for the boy, you became vulnerable again." Min-sik pulled out a tablet and showed her a news article. 3 months ago, a reporter started investigating wrongful convictions in gang violence cases. Your testimony was flagged for review. Sarah felt cold dread. Someone was already questioning my story. Someone was questioning everything about that night: the timing, the witnesses, the evidence. Min-sik's eyes glittered. "If you don't recant voluntarily, the investigation will conclude you were coerced into false testimony anyway." "Then why do you need me to confess?" "Because voluntary recantation carries more weight than investigative conclusions. Your confession will free my men and destroy Jin Woo's credibility." Sarah understood now. This wasn't just about revenge. Min-sik was using her to undermine Jin Woo's entire organization by making him look like someone who corrupted witnesses and perverted justice. Tommy's heart monitor beeped faster. His eyes fluttered open. "Sarah?" His voice was weak. "Who are these men?" "Old friends, kiddo. They're leaving soon." Sarah kept her voice calm while her mind raced. Hyun was 90 seconds away. Tommy needed medication in less than 2 hours. Min-sik was armed and dangerous and convinced he held all the advantages. "Time to decide," Min-sik said. "Call the press conference or watch him die." Sarah looked at Tommy's trusting face, at the monitor showing his irregular heartbeat, at Min-sik's satisfied expression. "Okay," she said, "I'll do it." Min-sik smiled. "Excellent. My people will draft your statement while we wait for the reporters." Sarah felt her breath catch. "How long will that take?" 1 hour, maybe 2. Tommy didn't have 2 hours. The poison in his system would kill him before Sarah could confess to crimes she'd never committed. Sarah's phone buzzed again. In position. Duck. Sarah threw herself across Tommy's bed as the room's windows exploded inward. Glass and smoke filled the air. Min-Sik's men shouted in Korean and scrambled for cover. Jin-Woo came through the window on a rappelling line. He moved with deadly precision, taking down 2 of Min-Sik's guards before they could react. Hyun burst through the door with a team of armed men. The firefight lasted 30 seconds. When the smoke cleared, Min-Sik's men were dead or unconscious. Min-Sik himself crouched behind an overturned chair, bleeding from a head wound. Sarah looked up from Tommy's bed. "Is it over?" Jin-Woo moved to her and pulled her into his arms. "It's over." Dr. Chen rushed into the room with a syringe full of clear liquid. "Tommy needs this now." Sarah held Tommy's hand while Dr. Chen injected the antidote into his IV line. Within minutes, the boy's color improved and his heart rhythm stabilized. "He'll be fine," Dr. Chen assured her. "Full recovery within 24 hours. Sarah felt tears of relief run down her face. Tommy was safe. The nightmare was finally over. Min-Sik spoke from his position on the floor. "This isn't finished, Jin-Woo. I have allies, resources. I'll destroy everything you—" Jin-Woo's gun appeared in his hand. "No, you won't." The single gunshot echoed in the small hospital room. Min-Sik slumped against the wall and didn't move again. Sarah stared at the body and felt nothing. No grief, no horror. Just relief that the monster who terrorized her family was finally gone. "Sarah." Jin-Woo's voice was gentle. "Are you okay?" She looked at him. This man who'd just killed someone to protect her and Tommy. This dangerous stranger who was also the boy she'd never stopped loving. "I'm okay," she said, and for the first time in days, she meant it. End of Part 3. Continue with Part 4. Architected final narrative arc with recovery, romance, and domestic resolution. The user wants me to continue with Part 4, which should be the final part. Based on the outline and structure, Part 4 should cover Chapter 22, Hospital Recovery, Sarah's Declaration of Commitment. Chapter 23, 3 weeks later, Threat Eliminated, Family Forming. Chapter 24, 6 months later, Successful Surgery, Wedding Plans, Family Complete. Epilogue, Domestic Peace, Safety, Family. This should be around 4,000 words and include the first kiss, should happen at 85 to 95% of total story, recovery and healing time jump, showing established life together. Epilogue with final domestic scene, final line. TAS, 10 words, I need to follow all the formatting rules, include the mandatory repetitive formulas, and end on quiet emotional certainty about family and home. Let me write Part 4, covering the recovery, relationship development, time jumps, and epilogue. Part 4. 3 hours later, Sarah sat beside Tommy's hospital bed and watched him sleep peacefully. The antidote had worked perfectly. His color was normal, his breathing steady, his heart monitor tracing healthy rhythms. Jin-Woo stood by the window, coordinating cleanup with Hyun through quiet phone calls. Min-Sik's body had been removed, the broken glass swept up. Hospital security had been briefed with a cover story about gang violence that wouldn't raise uncomfortable questions. Dr. Chen finished his examination and smiled at Sarah. "Tommy's completely stable. We'll monitor him overnight, but he can go home tomorrow." Home. Sarah felt the word settle in her chest with strange weight. Where was home now? Her tiny apartment? Jin-Woo's fortress-like compound? Somewhere she hadn't imagined yet. Jin-Woo ended his call and moved to her side. "How are you feeling?" Tired, relieved, confused? Sarah looked at their joined hands. "What happens now?" "Now you rest. We all rest. Tomorrow we figure out the future." Sarah's chest tightened. "What if I don't know how to live in your world? What if you don't have to?" Jin-Woo's voice was gentle. "What if we create something new, something that works for both of us?" Before Sarah could answer, Tommy's eyes fluttered open. He looked around the room with typical 8-year-old curiosity. "Are the bad men gone?" he asked. "Yes?" "Kiddo, they're gone for good." Tommy nodded seriously. Good, I didn't like them. He looked at Jin Woo. Are you Sarah's boyfriend? Sarah felt her face heat up. Tommy. It's okay, Jin Woo said. He sat on the edge of the hospital bed. I was Sarah's friend a long time ago before you were born. We lost touch, but now we've found each other again. Do you love her? Tommy asked with devastating directness. Jin Woo's eyes found Sarah's. Yes, very much. Good. Sarah needs someone to love her. She takes care of everyone else but forgets about herself. Sarah's breath caught. Her 8-year-old brother saw things adults missed. Tommy's right, Jin Woo said quietly. You do take care of everyone else first. Someone has to. Not anymore. Jin Woo's voice was certain. From now on, someone takes care of you too. Sarah felt tears burn her eyes. The idea of being protected and cared for felt foreign, dangerous, like something that could be taken away at any moment. But looking at Jin Woo's steady expression and Tommy's trusting face, she thought maybe it was time to try. Sarah slept in the hospital chair that night, holding Tommy's hand and listening to his peaceful breathing. Jin Woo dozed in another chair, never fully relaxing but finally allowing himself to rest. When morning came, Dr. Chen pronounced Tommy ready for discharge. The boy was weak but alert, asking questions about everything and everyone with typical curiosity. Where are we going? Tommy asked as they loaded him into Jin Woo's SUV. Sarah looked at Jin Woo. They hadn't discussed living arrangements beyond getting through the immediate crisis. My house, Jin Woo said, until we figure out something more permanent. Is it big? Tommy wanted to know. Pretty big. Does it have a yard? A very big yard, Tommy grinned. Can I build a tree fort? Jin Woo smiled. The expression transformed his face from dangerous to almost boyish. I think we can arrange that. The drive to the compound gave Sarah time to process everything that had happened. 4 days ago, she'd been a struggling coffee shop worker. Now she was living with a man who controlled territory through violence and commanded loyalty through strength. But watching Jin Woo patiently answer Tommy's endless questions, she saw glimpses of the boy she'd fallen in love with 10 years ago. The gentle soul who'd read her poetry and promised to protect her from everything. Maybe people could change without losing their essential selves. Mrs. Chen was waiting when they arrived. She'd prepared the guest suite with medical equipment for Tommy and filled it with toys and books appropriate for an 8-year-old. Welcome home, she said warmly. Home. There was that word again. Tommy explored his new room with obvious excitement while Sarah watched from the doorway. For the first time in months, her brother looked truly happy. He'll be safe here, Jin Woo said quietly. I know. Sarah felt her chest tighten with unexpected emotion. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. You need to let yourself belong somewhere. Sarah looked at him. Is that what you're offering? Belonging? I'm offering everything I have, everything I am. Jin Woo's voice was rough with emotion. Sarah, I've spent 10 years building walls around my heart. You walked through them like they were made of paper. Sarah felt her breath catch. Jin Woo, I love you. I loved you when we were teenagers. I love you now. I'll love you whatever happens next. Sarah stared at this dangerous man who'd risked everything to save her brother. This stranger who was also her first love, grown into someone complex and powerful and utterly devoted to protecting the people he cared about. I love you too, she whispered. Jin Woo stepped closer. Sarah, I need you to understand something. My world is complicated, dangerous. There will always be people who want to hurt me by hurting the people I love. I know. Are you sure you're ready for that? Sarah thought about Tommy's trusting face, about the children Min Sik had used as leverage, about the choice between safety and love that she'd already made without fully realizing it. I'm sure, she said. Jin Woo's eyes found hers. Something shifted in his expression. Hope mixed with determination and love so fierce it took her breath away. He kissed her. Sarah had imagined this moment for 10 years, dreamed of it through sleepless nights and lonely days, but the reality was better than any fantasy. Jin Woo kissed her like she was everything he'd lost and found again, like she was worth the wait and the pain and the impossible choices, like she was home. Sarah kissed him back and felt the last walls around her heart crumble. This was right. This was where she belonged. "Ew," Tommy said from the doorway. "Are you going to do that a lot?" Sarah and Jin Woo broke apart, laughing. "Probably," Jin Woo said. "Gross. Can I go explore the yard now?" "After lunch," Sarah said automatically. "I'll show you the tree that would be perfect for a fort," Jin Woo offered. Tommy's face lit up. "Really? Really?" Sarah watched them make plans and felt something settle in her chest. Family. Not the family she'd been born into or the family tragedy had created, but the family they were choosing to build together. It felt like coming home. 6 months later, Sarah woke to sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows and the sound of laughter from the garden. She rolled over and found Jin Woo already awake, watching her with the expression he wore every morning, like he still couldn't believe she was really there. "Good morning," he said quietly. "Good morning." Sarah stretched and listened to Tommy's delighted shrieks from outside. "What's he building now?" "A bridge between the tree fort and the garage roof. Hyun is supervising to ensure he doesn't actually kill himself." Sarah laughed. Tommy had recovered completely from his ordeal and threw himself into every project with 8-year-old enthusiasm. The tree fort had evolved into an elaborate construction that would have impressed professional architects. "Speaking of which," Jin Woo said, "Dr. Chen called. Tommy's latest tests came back perfect. The surgery was completely successful." Sarah felt familiar relief wash over her. Tommy's heart surgery had taken place 3 months ago, funded by Jin Woo without question or expectation of repayment. The procedure had been flawless, and Tommy's recovery exceeded everyone's expectations. "He wants to try soccer this fall," Sarah said. Mrs. Chen already researched youth leagues. She has strong opinions about which one would be most suitable. Sarah smiled. Mrs. Chen had appointed herself Tommy's surrogate grandmother and took the role seriously. Between her attention and Hyun's patient instruction in everything from chess to basic self-defense, Tommy had acquired a small army of protective adults. "What about work?" Sarah asked. Jin Woo had bought her a small cafe 6 blocks from the compound. Nothing fancy, but hers to manage however she chose. The regular customers included several of Jin Woo's associates, which ensured both steady business and complete security. Marcus called yesterday. The new espresso machine arrived early. Sarah had hired her former co-worker to help manage the cafe. He'd been thrilled to escape corporate coffee shop politics and embrace the creative freedom of an independent business. "Good. I want to test some new menu options before the fall semester starts." They'd positioned the cafe near the university, attracting students and faculty who appreciated quality coffee and homemade pastries. Sarah found genuine satisfaction in creating something positive and productive in a life that had been consumed by survival for so long. Jin Woo sat up and reached for something on the nightstand. "Sarah, I want to talk to you about something." His tone made her stomach flutter. "Okay." He turned back to her holding a small velvet box. Sarah's breath caught. "I know this might seem fast," Jin Woo said, "and I know my world is complicated. But Sarah, I can't imagine my life without you and Tommy in it." Sarah stared at the box and felt her heart race. "I don't need an answer right now," Jin Woo continued. "I just need you to know that when you're ready, I want everything with you. Marriage, family, whatever future we can build together." Sarah took the box with shaking hands and opened it. The ring was perfect, simple and elegant without being ostentatious, the kind of ring she would have chosen herself. "Jin Woo," she whispered. "I love you," he said simply. "I want to spend the rest of my life proving that to you." Sarah looked at this man who'd saved her brother's life and rebuilt her world, who'd risked everything to protect her and asked for nothing in return except the chance to love her completely. "Yes," she said. Jin Woo's eyes found hers. "Yes? Yes. I'll marry you. Yes. To everything." Jin Woo's breath caught. He took the ring from the box and slipped it onto her finger with hands that shook slightly. "Are you sure?" he asked. "I've never been more sure of anything." Jinwoo kissed her then, soft and sweet and full of promises. Sarah kissed him back and felt the last pieces of her old life fall away. This was her future, this dangerous, complicated, absolutely devoted man, and the family they were building together. "Sarah," Tommy's voice carried from the garden, "come see what I built." Sarah laughed against Jinwoo's mouth. "We should go see his latest creation." "In a minute." Jinwoo's voice was rough with emotion. "Let me hold you a little longer." Sarah settled against his chest and listened to his steady heartbeat. Through the windows, she could hear Tommy explaining engineering principles to Hyun in the matter-of-fact way that made adults forget he was 8 years old. "He's going to want a wedding roll," she said. "Ring bearer?" "Probably, unless he decides he wants to officiate." Jinwoo laughed. "Nothing would surprise me at this point." They lay in comfortable silence, watching sunlight paint patterns on the ceiling and listening to the sounds of home. Sarah felt her breath catch with unexpected emotion. "What is it?" Jinwoo asked. "I'm happy," she said. "Really, completely happy. I forgot what that felt like." "Good." Jinwoo's arms tightened around her. "You deserve to be happy. So do you." "I am. For the first time in 10 years, I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." Sarah looked at the ring on her finger, at the man whose arms surrounded her with absolute security, at the life they were building together, one choice at a time. "When do you want to have the wedding?" she asked. "Tomorrow, next year, whenever you're ready." Sarah thought about everything they'd survived to reach this moment, the violence and loss and impossible choices that had shaped them both, the love that had endured through a decade of separation and emerged stronger than ever. "Spring," she decided, "when Tommy's fully recovered and we've had time to plan something perfect." "Spring it is!" Another delighted shriek from the garden made them both smile. "We should really go see what he's building," Sarah said. "One more minute." Jinwoo pulled her closer, and Sarah let herself melt into his warmth. Through the windows she could see the gardens where Tommy was constructing his latest architectural wonder, the same gardens where she'd sat 6 months ago, terrified and uncertain about everything. Now she was home. Really, truly home. "Sarah?" Jinwoo's voice was quiet. "Thank you." "For what?" "For trusting me. For choosing this. For giving me a family again." Sarah's chest tightened with love so fierce it was almost painful. "Thank you for saving us." "We saved each other." Sarah kissed him one more time, then reluctantly pulled away. "Come on. Tommy's probably designed something that defies physics and wants us to admire his genius." They got dressed and walked hand in hand toward the garden, toward the sound of Tommy's laughter and the life they were building together. Sarah felt her breath catch as they stepped outside. Tommy had indeed built something impressive. A rope bridge connected his tree fort to a platform he'd constructed on the garage roof. Hyun stood below, wearing a hard hat and looking resigned to whatever project would emerge next. "Sarah," Tommy called from his aerial perch, "look, I can see the whole neighborhood from up here." Sarah laughed and waved. "Very impressive." "Kiddo, just don't fall." "I won't. Jinwoo taught me about safety ropes." Sarah looked at Jinwoo. "You taught him about safety ropes?" He asked. "I figured knowledge was safer than ignorance." "Sarah, come up here," Tommy called. "I want to show you something." Sarah climbed the carefully constructed ladder to Tommy's tree fort. The interior was more sophisticated than she'd expected, with built-in seating and storage areas. "This is amazing, Tommy." Jinwoo helped with the design, and Mrs. Chen made cushions, and Hyun taught me about load-bearing joints. Sarah looked around the space that had become Tommy's private kingdom. "What did you want to show me?" Tommy pointed toward the city skyline visible through the trees. "From up here you can see everything. Our old apartment building, the hospital, the coffee shop, all the places we used to go when we were scared and sad." Sarah felt her chest tighten. "Do you miss any of it?" Tommy considered the question with typical seriousness. "I miss feeling normal sometimes, but I like feeling safe more." "You are safe, kiddo. We all are." "I know," Tommy grinned. "And Sarah, I like Jinwoo. He's good for you." "Yeah?" "Yeah. You smile more now, And you don't worry about money all the time." Sarah felt tears burn her eyes. She hadn't realized how much her constant anxiety had affected Tommy. "Are you happy here?" she asked. "Really happy. This feels like home." Tommy hugged her with fierce 8-year-old affection. Sarah held him and looked out at the city where their old life had been filled with struggle and fear. "Tommy, I have something to tell you. Jin Woo asked me to marry him." Tommy pulled back to look at her face. "Are you going to?" "I said yes. How do you feel about that?" Tommy thought for a moment. "Will he be like my dad?" "If you want him to be." "And will we stay here?" "As long as you want." Tommy nodded seriously. "Then I think it's good. You love each other, and I like having a big family." Sarah felt her heart expand with gratitude. "I like that too." They climbed down from the tree fort to find Jin Woo and Hyun discussing the structural integrity of Tommy's bridge project. "The engineering is actually quite sound," Hyun was saying, "though I maintain that 8-year-olds shouldn't have access to power tools." "Noted," Jin Woo said gravely. Tommy ran to Jin Woo and hugged him around the waist. "Sarah told me you're getting married." "We are. How do you feel about that?" "Good, but I want to help plan the wedding." "Of course you do," Sarah said. "And I want to invite everyone. Mrs. Chen and Hyun and Dr. Chen and Marcus and all the guys from the cafe." Jin Woo laughed. "That's a lot of people." "Family is supposed to be big," Tommy said with certainty. Sarah looked around at the people gathered in the garden. Hyun, who'd become Tommy's patient teacher and protector. Mrs. Chen, visible through the kitchen window as she prepared lunch. Jin Woo, who'd risked everything to save them both. Tommy was right. Family was supposed to be big. 1 year later, the wedding took place in the garden on a perfect spring afternoon. Tommy served as ring-bearer with appropriate solemnity, though he couldn't resist adding his own commentary to the traditional vows. "Do you promise to love Sarah even when she's grumpy in the morning?" he asked Jin Woo during the ceremony. "Especially then," Jin Woo replied seriously. "Do you promise to love Jin Woo even when he works too much?" Tommy asked Sarah. "Always," Sarah answered. The reception lasted until sunset. Marcus had catered from the cafe. Mrs. Chen had coordinated flowers and decorations with military precision. Hyun had somehow procured a string quartet, despite claiming he knew nothing about wedding music. Dr. Chen gave a toast about the healing power of love. Detective Hayes, who'd become an unexpected friend after closing Sarah's case, made jokes about reformed criminals and second chances. Even some of Jin Woo's business associates attended, bringing gifts and respectful congratulations. Sarah danced with her new husband, under stars and string lights while Tommy ran around the garden with other children, finally part of a world where he felt completely safe and loved. "Any regrets?" Jin Woo asked as they swayed to soft music. "None," Sarah said. "You?" "Only that it took us 10 years to find each other again. Maybe we needed those 10 years to become the people who could build this." Jin Woo considered that. Maybe we did. They danced in comfortable silence, surrounded by family and friends, and the life they'd chosen together. Sarah felt her breath catch with the magnitude of her happiness. "Mrs. Park," Jin Woo said quietly, "I like the sound of that." "Good, because you're stuck with it." Sarah laughed and pulled him closer. "I can think of worse fates." "Sarah," Tommy called from across the garden, "come see the cake. Mrs. Chen made it look like a castle." Sarah looked at Jin Woo. "Duty calls." "Always." They walked hand in hand toward their son and the celebration of everything they'd fought to protect. Sarah felt her chest tighten with love so complete it was almost overwhelming. This was home, this was family, this was everything she'd dreamed of, and more than she'd dared to hope for. Tommy grabbed their hands and pulled them toward the elaborate wedding cake. "Look, it even has little people that look like us." Sarah examined the sugar figurines on top of the castle cake. A bride and groom holding hands while a small boy stood between them, arms raised in celebration. "It's perfect," she said. "Just like us," Tommy declared. Sarah looked at her husband and son and felt the truth of that statement settle in her bones. They weren't perfect people. They'd all been shaped by loss and trauma and difficult choices. but together they were perfect for each other. Jin Woo squeezed her hand. "Ready for the rest of our lives, Mrs. Park?" Sarah looked at him. This dangerous man who'd become her safe harbor. This stranger who was also her oldest love. This protector who'd given her a family and a future she'd never imagined possible. "Ready," she said. They cut the cake together while Tommy cheered and cameras flashed. Sarah felt tears of joy run down her face as she looked around the garden filled with people who loved them. Later that night, after the guests had gone home, and Tommy had fallen asleep in his tree fort under a blanket of stars, Sarah and Jin Woo sat on their bedroom balcony and watched the city lights twinkle in the distance. "Happy?" Jin Woo asked. Sarah leaned against his shoulder and thought about the question. Happy seemed too small a word for what she felt. Complete, grateful, blessed. Home. "Perfect," she said finally. Jin Woo's arms tightened around her. "I love you, Sarah Park." "I love you too, husband." They sat in comfortable silence, watching the world sleep peacefully below them. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. Tommy would start. 4th grade. The cafe would host its first book club meeting. Jin Woo would continue the delicate work of building legitimate businesses while protecting the family that meant everything to him. But tonight was perfect. Tonight was theirs. Sarah closed her eyes and listened to Jin Woo's steady heartbeat, to Tommy's soft breathing from the garden below, to the sound of her own peaceful pulse. She looked at him. He smiled. They were finally home.